You guys want to? Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Going Alone. Here we have Tyrael versus Ragnaros, Modern Life for Tempest, and Zhongha for L5. And Tyrael's not a hero that you think of. I think a lot of people don't think of when they're talking about soul laning because he doesn't really have great wave clear. It's okay. He doesn't really have a lot of sustain. He just has a shield, which has a time limit. It's not that big a shield, even if it was buffed recently. But he has the number one thing that a soul laner really needs, which is the ability to never die. And if you don't die and you can tie your lane, keep your wave at least moderately pushed, you're going to be in a situation where you don't need to necessarily do anything but tie the lane. However, on Dragonshire, there's also the point control to factor in. We're going to see how this goes. Duck already here, trying to get early pressure on to Zhongha. This is also partially just to deprive Zhongha of his stacks, and I want to talk about that. Righteousness works for you, great. Also works for your minion wave. If you time your W correctly, especially in the early game, you can drastically slow down Ragnaros' stacking of his stacks. So you shouldn't be trying to W for yourself, actually. Wing for yourself isn't bad, but you should actually, when you're soul laning as Tyrael, W for the wave. If you can negate Flame Strike, if you can negate Blizzard and make the wave survive, like I think at levels 1 through 3, Blizzard doesn't clear the wave. If all 3 waves hit, it clears the wave from at 2 and 3, but not at 1. So Jaina has to use Cone of Cold. If you Righteousness the wave, that last wave won't kill it, and she then has to use Cone of Cold every single time. So there's a period of time where every time you W the wave, if you're clearing against a Jaina, she has to use another ability, and that's eventually going to cause her some mana problems. It's going to cause you some mana problems too. But in the Ragnaros lane, it prevents the stacking of his Q. And again, Zhongha doesn't know necessarily that Tychus left and didn't just go down here and then rotate around. So Tyrael can be on the point all he wants. He can sit on that point for days, and it takes people have to actually come and dislodge him. Whereas most other heroes who don't have this level of mobility, don't have the Q over the wall, don't have an escape, have to actually, be afraid. and not, be in the lane. Here we see Eldruin's Q. You do want to use your Q to threaten. Get behind, threaten the body block. Anytime there's a Q behind a melee soul laner, there's the threat of the body block. So if someone's in a bush and it has damage, then you get that slow. Right? So you always want to threaten that, and also Q into the wave. It does help DPS the wave a little bit. You are going to lose some shots as a soul laning Tyrael. You don't have enough wave clear, and you don't have any sustain, so you don't want to be taking that damage yourself. So you do want to use that where possible. And here's where the dynamic of wave clear starts to matter quite a bit in the soul lane on maps like Braxis and Dragonshire. You have to clear the wave in order to come get the point without missing soak. And because Ragnaros has better clear, he can come here, get his stacks, clear the point, and then come down. But because the 4-man is winning, and this is of course just an aspect of Tempest doing really well in the 4-man for the moment, it's not necessarily going to guarantee the Dragon Knight. You just got to time out when you prioritize getting the point and when you prioritize wave clear, when you know you can't do both. Zhongha knew he could not force Tyrael off the point, and it wasn't his priority to do so. He wanted to get the soak, and now Modern Life, with the rotation here, we are going to see a huge gang attempt onto Zhongha. He does end up going down, and again, that Q, every time you want to throw your Q behind the person you're laning against every single time, not because you're actually going to kill them 1v1, although there are some soul laners that Tyrael can kill 1v1. For instance, I have seen Smexy style kill Zagara 1v1 in the soul lane on Braxis as Tyrael more than once in Hero League. There are certain soul laners that who are low enough health that you can kill 1v1 as Tyrael, especially post 7 with Reciprocate. But in general, it's just that slow is the best CC you have to help secure kills on the rotation. And generally speaking, when you draft Tyrael, you do have a really strong stun tank to go along with him if he's the bruiser in a composition. And that means that you should have situations where you can potentially secure a kill, especially when you have a global. So smite on the wave. Kill the backline first. This is actually an important consideration that we don't... I don't think I've ever talked about it yet on this show. The mage minion does the least damage, but is the most important to kill because he gives you the globe. The archer minions do the most damage and have the second least health, and the frontline minions have the most health and do the least damage. If you're trying to maintain your wave as healthily as possible, you always want to kill the backline minions first. If you're trying to freeze the lane, you want to kill the backline minions first because the frontline minions are going to last for longer. And you can, slowly start to incrementally get the wave onto one side of the map. If you want to push... Right, there's very few certain areas where you want to kill the backline minions last. Very few scenarios. If you want the wave to push onto your side of the map, it's pretty much the only one. So if you're standing back here safely, you can be auto-attacking the high health minions and not really doing anything. Or even just stay mounted. But it's generally speaking, if you want the lane to push onto your side of the map, it's better not to do anything at all and just stay mounted. So again, Modern Life goes crazy and clears the wave pretty much instantaneously. He's looking for the rotation here, just in case. Nope, leaves. This is something that you'll see pros or even high-level players on stream do a lot of the time. They'll have a wave clear, they'll have nothing else to do in the lane, and they'll just be like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the other lane for a bit. Nothing happened? Okay, I'm going back. And it looks like they accomplished nothing. And they did. They accomplished absolutely nothing. But occasionally, they'll end up accomplishing something. They'll get a gank. This is what we talk about when we say wave clear enables rotations. If a wave is clear, and you're not a siege hero, there's nothing else left for you to do in that lane. You're done until the next wave spawns, which is, if it's 10 seconds away, you mount for 3, you ride for 4, you come back, you don't miss the soak. Wave clear enables rotations. That's why we talk about drafting wave clear heroes for your 4-man and not necessarily for your soul lane. Wave clear matters in the soul lane, but for different reasons. And in this case, it does enable a brief rotation by Modern Life. Can't actually do anything with it. But maybe if someone had been overextended here and he'd gotten the Q and then false dead damage would have been enough. Boomerang has he has burst now. They could have secured a kill if there had been a fragile overextension there. So he's rotating for the possibility of something happening and not necessarily the reality of something happening. We are going to see him come back up and clear the wave. This is a 3-man rotation to grab the camp. Ragnaros can do camps by himself at a certain point. There are actually a number of solo laners. Sonya, Ragnaros, Illidan, Zagara, who, if they instantly clear the wave, can come down, solo the camp, back, and not miss too much soak here, but then they have a lot of extra lane pressure. So it's something to always look out for. If you see a high health Ragnaros, Illidan, Sonya disappear from lane around like level 7, you gotta be like, well, either they rotated to potentially look for a kill or they're doing that camp. And if you have an escape like Tyrael, you could actually, go check. Right, because you can just walk around the corner and be like, oh, yeah, they're doing camp, and then keep back over the wall. Having the information is really useful because it allows your 4-man, you can ping the camp, which could be misinterpreted. If you're on comms or something, if you're in a more coordinated environment, you can be like, 3 people on the camp, and they'll be like, oh, well, we're going to grab bottom tower, right? We're going to get some free experience because they had the temerity to do a camp while we're all in lane. And now Tyrael has to deal with this nonsense. Notice that he's not... he could have W'd to save himself a little bit of health there, but he's really not using his abilities. Modern Life's mana is basically always really high. And here we do finally see him use his W just to sustain a little bit. He throws the Q out behind Ragnaros, gets on top of Ragnaros himself, just forces out Blast Wave, and he backs up. He's just getting some free damage onto his opposite number, and then, going back to doing his job in the lane. We do see him Wing now. The wave, and I think Modern Life could have actually been Wing. There were a few instances, I think I pointed out a couple of them, where he could have been Wing the wave more and trading more of the damage. He's trying to keep his mana as high as possible because this is a marathon and not a sprint, and Tyrael does have significant mana issues. One of the things that I really like to see is a Malfurion pickup, and Malfurion actually rotating up and throwing an Innervate and a Hot on to the Soul Laner on Dragonshire. It helps a significant amount. If you have a relatively even matchup and every 30 seconds Malfurion comes up and throws a Q and an Innervate on your Soul Laner, that relatively even matchup usually gets really one-sided. And it's not... If you're rotating as 4, it's not that far a rotation. Just be like, come up here, cast 2 spells, remount, and come back down. One of the huge benefits of Malfurion is the amount of heal he gets per cast, and the fact he does have that mana efficiency as well. We're going to see an attempted gank here onto Modern Life. He immediately W's. He's just gone with the smite. Throws out the Q behind him. He's going to be absolutely fine. And again, the major benefit of Tyrael is no, he doesn't necessarily win the lane. In a lot of places, he loses the lane very slowly, but he's immortal. You cannot kill a good Tyrael in the solo lane. If Tyrael ever dies in the solo lane, it's not because you played well, it's because he made a mistake. And you also probably had to play pretty well. But unfortunately, he does slowly lose the lane to Ragnaros just because of the sheer nature of the wave clear. He could have lost the lane a little bit slower. There were a couple points where the W on the minion wave would have helped a lot in terms of denying Ragnaros stacks. And the slower you allow Ragnaros to get those stacks, the harder it is for him to get the stacks, the more pressured he feels to get them up. So that is sort of, this is a good example of Tyrael versus Ragnaros. It's not a perfect example of Tyrael versus Ragnaros, but Modern Life is not the best soul laner yet. He's definitely come a very long way since we started watching him in the first part of Korean HGC, and I'm actually excited to see more of his play in the future here. But it's a good example, and it's one that people have been asking a lot of questions about.